Hey guys, we are here in section 7.5 to talk about installment buying. We have recently finished up our conversations on simple interest and compound interest. So now we're going to talk about some more real life situations, such as when we're buying cars and things like that. So a lot of people celebrate their college graduation by getting a new car. Unless you're very wealthy, you won't be plunking down a stack of crisp $100 bills to make that happen. You'll need to get a loan. Okay, in this case, you'll be doing what is called installment buying. This is like a car note. This is when an item is purchased and the buyer pays for it by making periodic partial payments or installments. There are natural advantages and disadvantages to installment buying. The most obvious advantage is that it allows you to buy an item that you don't have enough money for and use it while raising that money. The most obvious disadvantage is that you'll have to pay interest on that amount borrowed. So you end up paying more for the item. In some cases, you end up paying a lot more. So fixed installment loans. We have a couple of new formulas that we'll have to look at. A fixed installment loan is a loan that is repaid in equal payments. Sometimes the buyer will pay part of the cost, and that's called the down payment. This box contains other key terms we'll use to describe the wonderful world of installment loans. The first one would be the amount financed. That's the amount a borrower will have to pay. It's hard to say borrower and will next. A borrower will have to pay interest on. So the amount financed equals the price of the item minus the down payment. Remember, that's just you saying, okay, this is how much it costs. This is how much I have on it. Whatever's left, I have to borrow money for. The total installment price is the total amount of money the buyer will pay ultimately. Okay. Total installment price is the sum of all payments plus the down payment. Then you have the finance charge, which is just the interest charged on the borrowed amount. So that will be your total installment price minus the price of an item. So different situations will raise different ways that we can solve these. Let's just go ahead and look at the basic way when we are calculating information about a car loan. We will use some of these formulas that we just saw, so we'll have to kind of go back and forth to make sure we're using them properly. All right, Kat bought a 2-year-old Genesis for $24,650. Her down payment was $6,000, and she will have to pay $414 for 48 months. Find the amount financed, the total installment price, and the finance charge. Okay, well, let's figure out the amount financed first. Amount financed is equal to the price of the item minus the down payment. The price of the item minus her down payment. So how much more does she need? $18,650. That's how much she will need to borrow. Then it says the total installment. The total installment will be the sum of all payments plus the down payment. Well, she's paying $414 per month for 48 months. This gives us 19872. So we're going to take that 19872 and add that down payment on. And so the total installment would be $25,872. This is the payment she's paying for 48 months plus what she already paid, which was the $6,000 as a down payment. Last but not least, we have our finance charge. Okay, our finance charge is the total installment minus the cost of the item, the price of the item, which was $24,650. All right, and I end up with those as my answers. So that's the finance charge or the interest. Total installment, that's how much she's paying altogether with interest. That's how much she had to borrow. So if it makes sense, this is what she had to borrow extra, okay? Plus that $6,000 that she already used as her down payment, plus the interest, be her total installment. In some cases, in some sense, an installment loan is the opposite of an annuity. You make equal regular payments, but instead of saving money for the future, you're paying off money that you borrowed at the beginning of the loan. So after a big promotion, let's talk about computing a monthly payment. After a big promotion, a young couple bought $9,000 worth of furniture. The down payment was $1,000. The balance was financed for 3 years at 8% simple interest. Okay, so find the amount financed. Well, they came in for $9,000 furniture. They put down $1,000 down payment. So they had to finance $800. Okay. The next part says to find the finance charge. Well, we can actually find the finance charge by using its simple interest. We can actually find the finance charge by throwing in some previous knowledge of taking the principal, which is $8,000, times the rate, which is 0.08, times the number of years, which is 3. And we figure out that the interest or the finance charge is $1,920. Next, it tells us to find the total installment, okay? In this case, the total installment price is simply the cost of the furniture plus the finance charge, okay? The total installment is the price of the furniture plus the finance charge, which was $1,920. So we didn't have to do too much extra math here. And now it says find the monthly payment. Okay, to calculate the monthly payment, we're going to divide the amount financed plus the finance charge. So we're going to divide the amount financed, which was the $8,000, plus the finance charge, which is $9,920, by the number of payments. So we're going to divide 9920. The number of payments, well, it was financed for 3 years. So remember, 3 years is the equivalent to 36 months. So we're going to divide this by 36 to tell us how much we'll have to pay each month. $275.56. Okay, step by step, and also just thinking about it logically. Remember, the total installment is like your future value. That's the cost of the furniture plus your interest. But the monthly payment, she put down the $1,000. We know what the interest is, and we know how long she's going to have to pay. So we'll have to divide those. The monthly payment is the total installment price minus the down payment divided by the number of payments. Okay, and that's what we did. The total installment price minus that down payment, which was $1,000, and then divided by 36. Okay, this part gets fun. I'm going to slow down a little bit so that I don't make a mistake and so that you guys can keep up with what's going on, because we'll have to use this table to come up with some fun stuff. So many lenders add upfront fees to a loan and then spread them over the life of the loan. This has the effect of making the actual interest rate that a borrower pays higher than the quoted rate. Because this can get confusing, lenders are required by law to disclose an APR, or an annual percentage rate, that reflects the true interest charged. This allows consumers to compare loans with different terms. The mathematical procedures for computing APR are extremely complicated, so tables have been compiled that help you to estimate APR for a loan. There is also a wide variety of APR calculators available online. Here we have a partial table to answer a couple of questions. There are 3 steps required to find the APR from the table. They are listed below. Here are our 3 steps. and we are going to slowly walk through these. Ever had your transmission go out? Not fun. One couple ends up with a $1,900 repair bill and can handle paying $400 of it up front. They finance the rest for 2 years with a monthly payment of $67.34. Find the APR. All right. So the first step is to find the finance charge per $100 borrowed using this formula. Okay. So we're going to find the finance charge by taking our $1,900 and subtracting our down payment just like we would normally. And that's going to give us our amount financed, which we will need. And then our finance charge would be, let's go back up. Go look at this again. Total installment price minus the price of the item. So we'll need our total installment price first. Our total installment price, they're paying $67.34 for 2 years. So we need to first figure out those payments. $67.34 times 24. And that's going to give us $1,616.16 plus our down payment, because we need our total installment first in order to get our finance charge. So although it didn't ask for our total installment, we still need our total installment in order to get our finance charge. Okay, next, what do we need? Finance charge. So this is total installment. Let me label these numbers. Finance charge would be our total installment minus the cost of the item, which is that $1,900. And that'll give us $116.16 as our finance charge. Now we can do step 1, which is the finance charge, $116.16 divided by the amount financed, which was our $1,500. And then we're going to multiply that by 100. So go ahead and punch that into your calculator. 116.16 divided by 1,500 equals times 100 equals 7.744. Okay, so now that we have that number, it says find the row. Make sure. Yeah, this is money. I want to say, I'm like, that should be money because it's per $100. All right, so it says find the row in the table marked with the number of payments and move to the right until you find the amount closest to the number from step 1. All right, so find the row in the table marked with the number of payments. How many payments do we have? 2 years would be 24. So we need to find 24, and then we will move to the right till we find the number closest to what we just came up with. That number should fall in between here somewhere because we got 7.74. So it's probably closer to 8. Until you find the closest. Now, step 3 says the APR to the nearest 0.5% is at the top of the corresponding column. So the APR is when we move up from here. Okay, now it won't be exactly 7.5 because it's not quite 8. So we can say that it is about maybe 7.25. We'll put our little squigglies. It's about we'll do 7.25%. Okay. Lots of steps. Let's just look back over that one more time. So step 1, we have to find the finance charge per $100. The total amount they'll have to pay is $67.34 per month for 24 months, which is how we came up with this number. And they financed $1,500 of it. Okay, remember we had to subtract the down payment. And then that's how we ended up with our finance charge. We subtracted the total installment and what they financed, or the total cost of the item, and we ended up with the $116.16. Then we took that, divided them, and then multiplied by 100. Once we came up with that number, we went to our chart. We looked for the number of payments, which was 24. We went over to the number we got in step 1, which fell between here and here. And we just estimated that it'll be between 7 and 750. All right. Fun stuff. Luckily, we don't actually have to do that work. But it's a nice way to check to make sure that you're not getting bamboozled. All right. The last section. So far, we've covered examples of closed-ended credit. This is credit with a fixed number of payments and a specific payoff date. Actually, we didn't talk about that in this section. But we did talk about the annuities, and we did talk about finding the APRs, and we have talked about installment payments. So we have talked a lot about money. We just didn't talk about the closed credit. But anyways, we are going to talk about open-ended credit where there's no fixed number of payments or payoff date. These are like our credit cards. So by far, the most common example of this is credit cards. In theory, credit cards are awesome. You don't have to worry about carrying cash or getting a pocket full of coins you don't want in change. But of course, if you're not vigilant about paying your cards off every month, you can end up paying a small fortune in just interest. Since more and more people use credit cards for convenience, an understanding of open-ended credit is more important than ever. The next thing we'll do is study how the interest on a credit card is calculated. Well, I just said we didn't. We didn't talk about credit cards that have a certain amount of days. We did talk about closed-ended credit because our car notes, if it says 5 years, that's how long we have to pay it off. And we have a fixed number of payments. I'm sorry, I misread that. Okay, anywho, example 4. For the month of April, Elliot had an unpaid balance of $356.75. At the beginning of the month and made purchases of $436.50. A payment of $200 was made during the month. The interest on the unpaid balance is 1.8% per month. Find the finance charge and the balance on May.
Mommy, after you're done, can you make me some time?
Okay, I'll be down in just a second. Sorry, guys. Once again, working from home on a Saturday. Excuse the interruptions. Okay. All right, so let's look at what we have. We have an unpaid balance. $356.75. Then we have at the beginning of the month and made purchases for. Okay, so let's first find the interest on this, or the finance charge on the unpaid balance using simple interest with a rate of 1.8%. So we're going to find the interest on this unpaid balance, because you're going to have to pay, because you didn't pay that off, you're going to have to pay interest on that. So that's $356.75 times our rate, 0.018 times 1. Okay, so our interest will give us about, let's punch that in to be sure, 356.75 times 0.018 times 1, which would just be what it is. So it'll give us about $6.42. Okay, so that's our interest. So now we're going to take our $356 and we're going to add our interest to it. To give us $363. Did that wrong. Carry that one. Okay, so our unpaid balance plus our interest is where we're at now. And then it says they made purchases of $436.56. So we can add the extra purchases that they made, giving us $799.67. And then it says a payment of $200 was made during the month. So now that they made a payment, we can take that $200 away. Okay, so the new balance will be $599.67. So we found our finance charge, which was what they wanted the first time. And then we used that to find the new balance, okay? Once again, if this was unpaid, if you don't pay your credit cards off every month, you're going to be charged the interest. So this is unpaid. This is the interest. Okay? This is now your new balance. In addition to whatever else you purchased. And then your payment. So now your unpaid balance is $599.67. All right. Just a little sidelight. Since most credit card companies either use the unpaid balance method or don't charge interest on new purchases, if you pay off the full balance each month, you never pay any interest. In essence, you're getting to use the bank's money for nothing. But don't shed any tears for the poor banks. They charge the merchant a fee for each transaction. Also, the freedom that comes from buying stuff and walking out of the door without handing over any money makes it extremely difficult for people to spend only what they can afford, especially young people when using credit cards for the first time. I struggled with credit cards when I first went away to college. So every time we get to this section, usually when I'm face-to-face, I do a little bit more teaching about it and talking about it, because it can get you in trouble if you cannot handle your finances properly. I won't hold you on the video, but just know you have to be careful with those credit cards. It's not really free money. I mean, if you pay it off every month, I guess it can be considered free money. But no, if you don't pay it off every month, then you are being charged interest, and that interest can really build up. So just be careful. All right. Here are your discussion questions. Make sure you look over it and you understand everything we talked about in this section. And make sure you're writing down any questions,